Hello, friends. Welcome to Storycraft. On this channel, you will enjoy world top stories. Let's view the video. A child's one wish changed an entire city. The boy who wished for Rainatown. Wrapped in silence, in the small city of Elmsworth, the skies had forgotten how to cry. For 7 long years, not a single drop of rain had touched the cracked soil. Once lush parks had turned into dust bowls, lakes shrank into muddy puddles, and trees stood like skeletons of their former selves. Crops failed, businesses shuttered, hope dried up like the land itself. People no longer looked at the sky for answers. They looked away. The boy with wide eyes among the faded brick buildings of Elmsworth lived a boy named Eli, no more than 8 years old. Small for his age, with tangled brown curls and oversized hand-me-down shirts, Eli had eyes that carried the weight of old souls. He didn't speak much, but when he did, it was often about the sky. What it once looked like, what he dreamed, it could be again. His mother, Clara, worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. His father had disappeared 5 years ago, swallowed by the despair that had crept into every home in the city. But Eli still waited at the window every morning, watching. The dry wind blow dust down the empty street. Waiting, hoping. The wishing booth, it was a relic from another time, an old telephone booth. Glass cracked, paint peeling, stuck between a diner and a forgotten bookstore. Most people ignored it, assuming it hadn't worked in decades. But someone, no, one knew who, had hung a handwritten sign on the door, one wish. Speak from the heart. Eli discovered it by accident while chasing a paper kite through the wind. Curious, he stepped inside. The air inside the booth felt strangely warm, untouched by the chill of the morning. He picked up the dusty receiver and held it to his ear. There was no dial tone, no static, just silence. Still, something inside him told him to speak, a whisper to the void. "I just want it to rain," he said softly. "Not for me. For Mom. She cries alone at night. And for Mr. Jenkins, whose farm is dying. And for the birds that flew away and never came back." His voice trembled. He wasn't sure why he believed it would matter. But as he hung up the phone, a single feather drifted through the air and landed at his feet. He looked up. No birds in sight. Just clouds. Light gray, thin and high, but clouds nonetheless. He blinked, and they were gone. The wind changes. That night, the winds shifted. People noticed a strange stillness in the air, like the city had paused to listen. The scent of something unfamiliar danced through the streets. Not dust, not smoke, but petrichor, the smell of rain on dry earth. Eli sat by the window as he always did. But this time the stars were hidden behind a sheet of drifting clouds. He smiled, curling up beneath his blanket, unaware that something ancient had stirred in response to his wish. Whispers in the dark across town. Old weather vanes creaked and turned for the first time in years. Broken clocks began ticking again. Dogs howled at the sky, and children dreamt of waterfalls. No one understood it, but they felt it in their bones. People began to talk the next morning. About strange dreams, about sudden memories of storms long forgotten. and about the odd, silent boy who had been seen entering the broken-down booth. a drop of hope. 3 days after Eli made his wish, a single drop fell from the sky. It landed on the cracked steps of City Hall, darkening the stone like a teardrop. A woman screamed. Then another drop fell, and another. Soon, the entire city stood still under a soft, steady drizzle. It wasn't much, not a downpour, but it was enough to send people running outside, arms stretched wide, mouths open in laughter. Some wept. Others sang. No one could explain it, except Eli. He stood in the rain with his eyes closed, arms by his side, face to the sky, smiling. Not because his wish had been granted, but because he had always believed it could be. The city begins. To wake in the days that followed, things began to grow. Flowers peeked through sidewalk cracks. The trees outside the school grew tiny buds. People started sweeping their porches again, planting herbs in rusty pots. Clara came home earlier, her cheeks a little brighter, her laughter a little louder. No, one talked about the phone booth, and yet someone had cleaned the glass. The old handwritten sign was still there, but with one line added beneath it. He wished for all of us. Whispers through the wind. The rain's secret. The gentle rain lasted for only 2 days, but it was enough to bring color back to Elmsworth. Grass pushed through brittle sidewalks. Faded paint on homes looked a little less tired, but with the rain came something else, an unease that drifted beneath the joy. Whispers started to swirl like mist along alleyways and rooftops, soft and strange. People claimed to hear voices on the wind. Not loud, just fragments. She wished too. The boy knows. Not the first. The whispers didn't come from radios or open windows. They came from nowhere and everywhere. The librarian's warning. Mrs. Calloway, the city's librarian, was the first to speak openly. A woman who had once catalogued everything from city history to fairy tales. She had a memory like an old oak, deep roots, wide branches. She dusted off a forgotten book from the library basement, a leather-bound volume with no title. Inside were stories of a phone booth that appeared in cities on the edge of despair. No wires, no circuits, just presence. Each story was the same, a wish made, a miracle granted, and a price paid. The people of Elmsworth laughed at first. A fairy tale, they said. But Mrs. Calloway's eyes stayed serious. Magic doesn't deal in kindness, she said. It deals in balance. Eli hears them too. Eli was quiet again, but not in the way he used to be. Now his silence held weight. He had started hearing the whispers too. They followed him, clung to him like shadows. Sometimes, late at night, they spoke in familiar voices. His father's, his teachers', even ones he didn't recognize. You opened the door. You woke it. You owe it. Eli tried to ignore them, but the wind knew his name now. It curled into his ears and tickled the edge of his dreams. When he walked past the phone booth, the receiver would sometimes dangle, gently swinging, though no one had touched it. A stranger arrives. On the 5th day after the rain, a man arrived in Elmsworth. No one saw how he entered the city. His clothes were neat, but old-fashioned, and his eyes were the color of smoke. He went by the name Mr. Gray. He didn't ask questions. He answered them. "I'm here for the balance," he said, appearing at city meetings, cafes, and even in the school hallway. Wishes carry weight. Someone must carry it back. No one could explain how he got in. The borders of Elmsworth had been closed due to drought regulations. There were no records of him. But when people looked away and back again, he was there, always watching. Clara's dream. That night, Eli's mother had a dream. She stood in the middle of the city, surrounded by rain that fell upward. Buildings bent like paper, and the phone booth stood tall in the center, glowing with blue light. Eli was inside it, eyes closed, holding the receiver. "Don't let him take the wish back," a voice whispered to her, "or we all go silent. Again." She woke up gasping. Eli was gone. A voice on the line. Back at the booth, Eli stood once more, hand trembling as he reached for the receiver. The wind had guided him here, whispering too loud to ignore. The sky above swirled, not with clouds, but with movement, like something watching from beyond. He lifted the phone. There was a voice this time. "You wished for rain," it said, "but rain feeds more than flowers." Eli didn't speak. "You opened the way," it continued. And something else came through. Suddenly, the rain that had nourished the city began to darken. Thicker, heavier, sticky, like oil. The price begins. As Eli slowly lowered the receiver, the ground beneath the city shuddered. Lights flickered. Dogs barked wildly. And in the Iowa distance, a second phone booth appeared. This time, black, not red. The whispers in the wind grew louder, and Elmsworth realized the wish had changed everything, but it had not come for free. When the city held its breath, the rain turns black. At first, people thought it was just mud. The rain, now darker than ink, splattered windows and stained sidewalks. Children tried to dance in it, until their skin began to itch and their eyes burned. Panic followed quickly. Doors slammed shut. Buckets were tossed out. Umbrellas snapped under the sudden weight of what was no longer water. Clara held Eli tightly at their front door as she watched the rain pool in the gutters. It didn't soak into the ground. It just sat there, thick, unmoving, like tar. Eli didn't speak. He only stared. "It's not done," he whispered. The city listens. The people of Elmsworth gathered that evening in the town square, under umbrellas, coats, or anything that could keep the dark rain off their skin. The air hung heavy, thick with tension. Even the birds, those few that had returned, had gone silent. Mr. Gray stood at the center of it all, completely dry, as if the rain avoided him. "It's begun," he said calmly. "You were given a gift, and now the balance must be restored." Someone shouted, "What balance? What are you talking about?" Gray smiled, tilting his head. "Every wish creates a tear, a crack in the world, and through cracks, things crawl." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Calloway stepped forward, holding the old book, pages fluttering in the unnatural breeze. "You knew this would happen," she accused. "You came to collect the price." "No," Gray said. "I came to make sure you survive it. Eli's silence. Eli hadn't spoken since the night at the booth. He refused food. He barely slept. But his eyes were always wide, always watching something no one else could see. He sat by the window drawing symbols on fogged glass, shapes no one recognized, circles within circles, lines that bent impossibly, strange repeating patterns. Clara tried to reach him. "Please, baby, talk to me. What's happening?" But he only whispered, "It heard me." She didn't ask what it was. Somehow, she already knew. Something beneath. The ground under Elmsworth began to change. Roads cracked, sidewalks buckled, and sewer drains gurgled with a thick black sludge. Rats fled the city. Dogs howled without reason. At night, people heard groaning from beneath their basements, metal scraping, stone shifting, voices muttering, just below their homes. The phone booth, the red one, was no longer empty. People said that if you walked past it, you could hear crying inside, a child's voice, or sometimes your own. But it was the second booth, the black one, that terrified them most. It stood at the edge of town, where no rain ever reached. People who went near it spoke of time slowing, of shadows moving even when no one stood there. One man stepped inside and never came out. They boarded it up, burned it. It was untouched the next morning. Eli vanishes. On the 7th day after the black rain began, Eli disappeared. Clara awoke to find his bed empty, his shoes gone, and a trail of muddy footprints leading to the window. There was no broken glass, just an open latch and wind that whispered a single word: balance. She ran through the town screaming his name, but no one had seen him. Except one. A little girl, no older than 6, told Clara she saw Eli walking toward the black booth, holding something in his hands. "A feather," she said. "He had a feather." The breath before the storm. The city froze. No one spoke. No one worked. The sky hung low like a curtain ready to fall. The rain stopped, but no one cheered. It was too quiet, as if the entire world held its breath, waiting for something ancient to exhale. And then, at midnight, both phone booths rang, loud, piercing, at the exact same time. One red, one black, 2 calls, one choice. The miracle on Maple Street. 2 rings, 1 decision. The ringing echoed through Elmsworth like a scream from the sky. No one moved. Windows stayed shuttered. Lights dimmed. People clutched one another in silence, unsure of which sound was more terrifying. The shrill, mechanical cry from the red booth near downtown or the deeper, pulsing tone from the black booth at the city's edge. Only one person moved. Clara. Driven by a mother's instinct and a heart breaking with fear, she sprinted down Maple Street, the place where everything had begun, where Eli had made his wish. Her shoes splashed through puddles of black rain, now drying into strange patterns on the ground. The red booth stood ahead of her, glowing softly, ringing louder with every step. Inside the red booth, Clara reached for the door, but it opened before she touched it. A warm breeze spilled out, gentle and strangely sweet. The ringing stopped. Inside, she saw nothing but the old receiver hanging in midair, swaying slightly. Her trembling hand reached forward and lifted it to her ear. There was no voice, just a sound. Breathing, shallow, raspy, and small. "Eli?" she whispered. The breathing stopped. A child's voice, soft, uncertain, came through. "I'm not in the red one, Mama. I'm in the dark." And the line went dead. Clara screamed. The path to the black booth. She turned, facing the far end of Maple Street. In the distance, the black booth stood like a shadow pinned to the earth. Trees bent away from it. Streetlights flickered near. As Clara ran, the wind howled, whispering warnings in a language she couldn't understand. But she didn't stop. Not for the cold. Not for the fear. Not even for the shadows crawling at the corners of her vision. She reached the black booth, breathless, heart hammering, hands bleeding from where thorns had sliced her arms during the run. The booth was icy cold to the touch. The door creaked open, revealing complete darkness within. No glass, no floor. Just void. A miracle or a trap? Single Feather lay on the threshold, white, glowing faintly. Clara stepped inside, holding it close. Her voice cracked as she called his name. "Eli, please." A single tear fell onto the feather, and the darkness shuddered. For a moment, time folded. The shadows blinked, and the booth filled with golden light. When it faded, Clara stood outside again, on Maple Street. The sky above her was blue, the ground clean, the air fresh with the scent of flowers. And standing in front of her, clutching the same feather, was Eli, alive, smiling. The black booth was gone, the red booth empty. But not over. Maple Street bloomed that morning. Trees flowered in hours. A dried fountain began to flow again. People wept openly in the streets, falling to their knees in disbelief. They called it a miracle. But Clara knew better. As she hugged Eli, her eyes rose to the sky. And though it was bright and clear, far in the distance, something moved, circling high above. Watching, waiting. The miracle had come, but the price had not yet been paid. One wish, 1,000 hearts. The calm before. For the first time in years, Elmsworth breathed freely. The rain was gone, the sky shone a brilliant blue, and laughter returned to the streets. Children played outside, storefronts reopened, flowers bloomed in sidewalk cracks as if time itself had reversed the decay. Eli walked among them, hand in hand with Clara, quiet as always, but different. People smiled at him, but in their eyes was something else. Curiosity, awe, and sometimes fear. He had become the city's miracle. But not everyone believed the miracle was free. The feather that glowed. Eli never let go of the white feather. It never aged, never dimmed. He kept it in a small glass jar beside his bed. Sometimes at night it would glow faintly, as if reacting to something only it could see. Clara tried to throw it away once, 3 times in fact. But each morning it was back on the windowsill. On the 4th morning, there was a note beneath it, written in a looping hand neither of them recognized. One wish, one key, One door remains. The Forgotten Door. Mrs. Calloway was the first to notice the door. It appeared behind the library, an old wooden frame with no hinges, no knob, no wall. Just a freestanding door, painted deep red. No one had built it. No one could move it. And when anyone tried to open it, nothing happened. Until Eli approached. As he placed the jar with the feather in front of it, the wind held its breath again. The door creaked open, revealing not another world but a mirror, a perfect reflection of Elmsworth, but empty, lifeless, still. A choice of souls. Mr. Gray returned. He stood by the door, hands folded behind his back, eyes colder than before. "You opened a gate," he said softly, "and the gate must close. A soul came through that does not belong. The city lives because he walked away from that reflection. But now the reflection waits, hollow." Clara stepped forward. "What are you saying?" "One child lives," Gray said. "One soul stays behind. The balance, remember." The silence was unbearable. Eli stepped forward, small hands gripping Clara's tightly. "I'll go," he said. "No," she whispered, tears already falling. "You don't have—" "Two," Gray added. "A city's heart is made of many. If one heart can bear the cost, the door may stay shut." 1,000 hearts. The people of Elmsworth gathered once more, for Eli, for the city, for the truth, and one by one, without words, they stepped forward, each placing a hand on the door, on the jar, or on Eli's shoulder, the baker, the mechanic, the teacher, even Mrs. Calloway. 1,000 hands, 1,000 hearts. The door began to fade, the mirror cracked, and the feather turned to ash. A new sky Elmsworth changed that day, not just in color, not just in joy. It became a place whispered about in stories. A city saved by one boy's wish, and 1,000 hearts willing to share his burden. No one ever saw Mr. Gray again. The phone booths never returned. But sometimes, when the wind passes through Maple Street, it carries a voice. Soft. Hopeful. I just wanted it to rain. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel Storycraft for more interesting videos.